Protein. It's a word we hear all the time, right? We're told to eat more of it to build muscle. But then, we see it in our shampoo promising to repair our hair. So, how can one thing be both a fuel for our bodies and a shield for our hair? Well, that's the protein paradox, and today, we're going to break it all down. I mean, let's be real, protein is absolutely everywhere these days. It's not just in the gym anymore. It has gone completely mainstream. You see it in pancake mix, you see it in coffee creamer, even in popcorn. The message we seem to be getting is pretty clear. More protein is always better.
And this obsession isn't just about what we're eating. The hair care world is having a massive protein moment too. You see people online calling these treatments a total game changer. So what's the deal? How can both of these things be true? To figure it out, we've got to look at what protein does in two very, very different places. And first, we're going to start on the inside.
Okay, part one, inside the body. We're talking about fueling the machine, how the protein we actually eat helps build a stronger you.
So when you eat protein, doesn't matter if it's chicken, beans, or a protein shake, your body gets to work breaking it down into amino acids. The easiest way to think about these is like tiny little Lego bricks. For anyone who works out, these bricks are absolutely crucial for repairing all the tiny micro tears in your muscles. And that repair process, that's what actually makes your muscles grow back stronger.
Now there's a fancy scientific name for this whole process. It's called muscle protein synthesis, or MPS for short. It's a pretty simple cycle, really. You exercise, which creates a demand for repair, and the protein you eat supplies the materials, those little Lego bricks, to get the job done. The result? Stronger muscles. But that brings up a really important question. How much protein do we actually need?
So, what's the magic number? Well, you know what? Research gives us a surprisingly specific one. A study on women who do resistance training found that the sweet spot was right around 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight each day. And here's the kicker. Anything more than that didn't actually build more muscle. Your body has no way to store extra protein, so it just gets burned as energy or, well, flushed away.
And this is where things get really interesting, because it turns out it's not just about how much protein you're getting, it's also very much about when you're getting it. See, your body is way more receptive to those protein building blocks right after you finish a workout. It's a period people call the anabolic window.
And that anabolic window is a really big deal. In that first hour right after you exercise, your body's ability to use protein for repair is at its absolute peak, 100%. But wait just 2 hours, and that efficiency drops pretty significantly. And by the 4-hour mark, it's less than half. So when it comes to building muscle, when you eat can be just as important as what you eat.
Okay, so that's the inside story. Your body is this incredible, dynamic factory, using the protein you eat to actively build and repair living tissue. But what happens when we switch gears and look at the outside? If eating protein builds up your muscles, does slathering it on your hair build stronger hair? Well, it's not quite that simple.
And that brings us to part two, outside. Now we're talking about shielding the armor. And in this story, protein isn't a fuel for growth, it's a shield for protection.
Here's the most important thing you have to understand. Unlike your muscles, your hair isn't living tissue. It can't repair itself. It can't create anything from the inside. The picture on the left shows what things like heat and styling do to the hair's outer layer. It's called the cuticle. It gets all frayed and damaged. But the image on the right after a protein treatment, it looks way smoother, right? So what's going on? It's not building, it's patching.
And honestly, this is the best way to think about it. For your hair, protein isn't a building block. It's more like spackle you'd use on a cracked wall. It's a temporary filler that just patches up the existing damage on the surface.
So here's the play-by-play for your hair. All that styling we do creates tiny gaps and cracks in its outer shield. When you put on a protein treatment, the proteins basically fill in those gaps, acting like a temporary patch. This creates what some people in the industry call a neocuticle, basically a fake temporary shield that protects your hair from more damage. It's a really clever surface-level fix.
So we've got two completely different jobs for protein, building on the inside, shielding on the outside. But it turns out, in both cases, there's a limit. More is not always better, and this brings us to what we could call the Goldilocks principle.
Yep, whether we're talking about what you eat or what you put on your hair, protein follows the same rule. You're looking for the amount that's just right. Because going too far, well, that can cause a whole different set of problems.
Let's look at that side by side. In your diet, if you eat too much protein, your body can't save it for later.
The extra just gets burned for energy or is wasted. But with your hair, too much protein creates a different issue: buildup. Instead of making your hair stronger and more flexible, that protein buildup makes it stiff, brittle, and ironically, much more likely to snap and break.
And this is exactly why hair professionals are always warning people not to overload their hair with protein. The real key is to use these treatments sparingly. For most people, once every 4 to 6 weeks is more than enough. You have to think of it like a specialized repair tool, not like your daily conditioner.
So after all that, what's the bottom line? What do you actually need to do? Let's break it down into a simple protein playbook. Here it is. The protein you eat builds living tissue from the inside out. The protein you put on your hair only shields dead tissue on the outside. For both, you're aiming for balance, enough to get the job done, but not so much that you cause problems. For your diet, time that protein around your workouts. And for your hair, use those treatments just once in a while to keep it from getting brittle.
And that's the protein paradox. All cleared up. 2 totally different mechanisms, 1 superstar ingredient. It really makes you wonder though, doesn't it? In a world that's always looking for the next magic bullet, the next quick fix, what are we all going to be obsessed with next? Collagen? Peptides? Only time will tell.